right? Solving a quadratic equation. So here we are dealing with a quadratic equation. How do we know that the equation that we are dealing with is a quadratic equation? We look at the degree in the expression part, or we look at the order in the expression part, or we are looking at the highest exponent in the equation. So in this case, the highest exponent that we are having here is 2, which means it is of degree 2 or it's of order 2. So since it is of order 2, it means it is quadratic. So how do we solve a quadratic equation? Right, I've just tried to make use of these 4 steps, right? I find it very important for me whenever I'm solving a quadratic equation. So the first thing that I'll do is to look at my equation, the 3 terms. Is there a common factor? So in this case, we can see here that in this equation, there are 3 terms, and in those 3 terms, there is a common factor 3. So I'm going to reduce it by dividing by what? By the common factor. In this case, my common factor is 3. So I will then say this is now 3x squared Then I'm going to divide each term, remember, by a common factor. I'm reducing it so that I can make use of smaller numbers. So I'm writing everything here for the sake of what? Explanation. So I divide each term by 3. When I divide by a common factor 3, I'm just trying to make sure that I use simple numbers which are smaller. So 3 divided by 3, then we're going to have x, which means we'll remain with x squared. Then the next part, it is going to be 3x. Then we subtract 10, which is equals to 0 divided by 3, we have 0. Now, then it's now easier now. Now, from this step now, what we are going to do is to go on to step number 2, factorize by using trinomial factorization method. Now, this one is an advantage to us since we are having a coefficient of 1, right, on x squared. So it means by using trinomial factorization method, I'm going to distribute the x that I am squaring to come up with x squared. That's factorization of trinomial method. So my x squared here, I'll just distribute it here. It is a perfect square for me, so I'll just distribute it into 2 brackets. We are going to have 2 answers or 2 roots. Now, then thereafter, I am now going to look at the factors now. The factors of 10. Now, these factors of minus 10, when I add them, they must give me sum of what? Factors must be equals to our middle term. Right, I'm just going to make use of the coefficient here. So the sum of factors must be equals to 3. That's negative 3. right? Now, so the factors, when I add the two factors, they must give me what? Minus 3. So what are the factors of minus 10? Right, here I'm just going to make use of a number of factors here so that I try to exhaust all the factors. And at the end of the day, we must identify the correct pair of factors. Right, to start with the smallest, we have minus 1 and 10. If we take minus 1 and 10, if you multiply these two factors, they will give us negative 10. But when you add the factors, they will give us 9, right? So this pair is not what? Correct. Then we move on to the second one, where we have 1 and negative 10, right? 1 times negative 10, it gives us negative 10. But when you add the 2, it will give us negative 9, which is not negative 3. So it means, again, this pair is out. Then we have 2 and, let me start with the smallest, negative 2 and 5. That's the other pair. When you add these two, we'll get what? 3, which is not negative 3. So again, this is what? Out. Then we swap the negative operation there. That's 2 and, sorry for my end there, and negative 5. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. When you add the 2, then it will give us negative 3. So you can now see that the product of these two factors gives us negative 10. When you add those two factors, they give us what? Negative 3. So it means these two factors are the correct factors. So I'm just going to put them the way they are, right? I'll start with the positive one, which is plus 2. And here it is going to be minus 5. Right, I've factorized. Now, since I've factorized, I move on to the next step, number 3. It says equate each factor to 0. So what are these factors? Is x plus 2, and the other factor is x minus 5. So I'm going to equate them to 0, which means I'll take the first one, that's x plus 2 is equals to 0. Or the second factor, which is x minus 5 is equals to 0. Right, why are we equating each factor to 0? Now, in order for us to get this 0 here, it means it's either the first bracket, it's 0. 0 multiplied by the second bracket, it will give us 0, right? Or if the second bracket here is equals to 0, we are going to say x plus 2 multiplied by 0. It will also give us what? A 0. So any number multiplied by 0, it gives us 0. That's the reason to why we are equating each what factor, because we are saying it could be this bracket which is equals to 0, such that when we multiply with by x minus 5, it gives us 0. Or it's this bracket here which is equals to 0, such that when you multiply x plus 2, it will give us 0. Now, then we move on to our number 4. Step number 4, it says solve for x in each factor. So in the first factor, I'm going to solve for what? For x. So it means I'm going to transpose this 2 to this side. When I transpose the 2, it is now going to be what? It is going to be my x is equals to, then we have 0, the 2 that I'm transposing becomes what? Negative. Which means my x, this x is equals to what? Negative 2. I'm done with the first factor. Then I move on to the second factor. My second factor, remember, it's x minus 5 is equals to 0, right? So it means I'm going to transpose my negative 5 to go over the equal sign. I'm transposing it. When I transpose it, it becomes what? That's 0. Since it is negative, then it becomes what? Minus. It becomes positive 5. Right? Remember, when a number goes over the equal sign, it will take the opposite operation. So then my x is equals to 0 plus 5. We get what? 5. Right? Now, so I have solved the x in each what? Factor. Therefore, now, I am now going to say the value of my x, which is the root now. Therefore, my x is equals to what? I must always start with the smaller one. So my smaller value is minus 2. Or it is going to be what? Or it is going to be 5. These are my roots. So it means I am done in this case. Now, before you say I'm finally done, make sure that you cross-check. You can just substitute it here. Then you must make sure that you come up with 0. If you substitute 2, you substitute x by 2, you must get a 0. Then put 5 here, simplify it, you must also come up with 0. Then that's it.